We're getting word from inside the United States government that James Comey has been indicted by a grand jury in Richmond, Virginia. 2 counts. We don't have the indictment yet, but we have confirmation from federal sources that an indictment was handed up just about 20 minutes ago in Richmond, Virginia, federal grand jury. A significant moment, the first FBI director in the history of this country.
ICE under attack. New details now about the alleged sniper at a Dallas ICE facility. Yet more left-wing hate and violence. Plus, shutdown showdown. President Trump just upped the stakes big time. And Antifa under the microscope. They are now a designated domestic terror group, and we have a former Antifa activist here with us to take us inside the movement.
Welcome to American Sunrise.
I believe he should be charged with treason. I mean, he was involved in the largest deep state operation to undermine the president of the United States in the history of our country. Bigger than Watergate, bigger than any scandal. They used the intelligence apparatus. They used the FISA court system to spy on an opponent's campaign. Then they created a falsehood that the Trump campaign was colluding and conspiring with Russia. And then the intelligence community perpetrated that falsehood. Mainstream media perpetrated that falsehood. And now we know that all of that was made up. All of that was wrong. And it was all to undermine President Trump, the president of the United States. Unfortunately, they're just looking at what he said to Congress and charging him for lying to Congress, which is a crime, but nowhere near the level of crime of what I believe he should be charged with.
This is 2011. I went to an anti-neo-Nazi rally. And just because I wanted to oppose Nazis, and I happened to meet some people there who were part of the anti-fascist movement. So that's how I was involved in the anarchist movement as a whole for about 1.5 years. But then I realized very quickly that this was not the people for me. I had just read something like by Thomas Sowell. As I talked to my friends about them, they would dismiss me. They would call me a capitalist pig, all these different things. And it made me realize that these people weren't really interested in the truth. They were just interested in listening to their own rhetoric.
This is going to be a lot more of the grit, the nuance, the information within that press conference. Tylenol is widely used for more innocent ailments, especially with pregnant women, and that will be a major focus.
They have now started Facebook group pages where they are assembling names and photographs of addresses. If you have a flag in your yard, if you have a Christian fish on your car, if your car was spotted at a church, this happened in my own neighborhood, and all of us are targets now. Everyone who fits in their categories that they hate is a target now. These are Facebook groups that are happening all across the nation. This is very scary.
You have 65,000 total H-1Bs per year, and it's based on a lottery. With a $100,000 fee is an annual fee for new H-1Bs, so current H-1Bs don't panic. They feel that the companies can afford this, and they can train our own people in our own country. Big picture, it's going to create more training opportunities for American workers. And for specialized folks, sure, pay that $100,000. The door is still open. Amazon has 10,000. Now they pay $1 billion a year in H-1B fees. Can they afford that? Well, Amazon makes $60 billion net a year. Of course they can afford that.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Former FBI director and outspoken Trump critic James Comey is expected to be indicted by the Department of Justice in the coming days. At this point, it's not even clear what Comey would be charged with. Sources tell MSNBC that one component may be an allegation of lying to Congress almost exactly 5 years ago during testimony about whether he authorized a leak. Comey's congressional testimony at issue was September 30th. The 5-year statute of limitations expires next Tuesday, September 30th, 2020. Looks on its face like a wildly blatant abuse of the justice system, certainly far exceeding anything that we have ever seen since Watergate.
One by one, the checks on the leader's power disappear. Congress becomes a rubber stamp.
That's happening, yeah.
The civil service is turned into a legion of toadies.
3.8%. I'm a bit shocked, to be honest. Usually the revisions, as you get to second and third, become smaller and smaller. So 3.8% would be the best quarter going back to, and we have to go back a ways here, till 4.4, and that was the third quarter of 23.
With Trump so often, right, like the chaos is the point. So he can publicly name and publicly shame and point fingers and get on X and post whatever he wants. it's incredibly difficult for the average American to keep up with, okay, this guy's in, this guy's out, this guy's indicted. Comey, what did he do again?
If there were to be a price increase from tariffs, that it would not be inflationary, it would be a one-time movement.
What's the limit to his power? For me, it's largely his attention span. So that describes authoritarianism, not the 20th century version that we all grew up studying and fearful of. A modern version that is more boring, more cynical, but to me, just as dangerous.
Great respect for this man, and we've had a very good relationship for a long time. If you remember, he let Pastor Brunson, he freed Pastor Brunson. Pastor Brunson was put in jail for 35 years before I got there. This was a group that should have stopped it, and the president, after I called him, released him, which was a great thing for our Christian community. Pastor Brunson now is healthy, happy, and well.
What can you do to undo the stupidity? Yes, CNN took.
CNN? Well, because you sounded like a nice guy. But it's fake news. But you sound like the real deal.
Quite frankly, thank you.
We're going to be discussing the Patriot system, which is the best system. We'll discuss that. We're going to discuss the F-35. We'll be discussing all of the things that you know about and that some of you mentioned. Russia spent millions and millions of dollars in bombs, missiles, ammunition, and lives. Their lives, and they've gained virtually no land. I'd like to have him stop buying any oil from Russia while Russia continues this rampage against Ukraine.
They're leaking this memo to friendly reporters, and by doing that, they are clearly violating their attorney obligations, their obligations to their client confidentiality, the Department of Justice rules as it applies to attorneys, particularly federal prosecutors. It is highly inappropriate. It's illegal. They're doing this because they're trying to protect James Comey. They're trying to protect these lawfare Democrats like they've been trying to protect them for the last 8 years. In addition to perjury and an obstruction of a congressional investigation, there's also the charge of conspiracy. And the conspiracy is ongoing. When you cover up a conspiracy, you continue the conspiracy.
The Charlie Kirk Show starts now.
Breaking news, the Dallas ICE shooter conducted searches for ballistics and the phrase Charlie Kirk shot video and planned to, quote, give ICE agents real terror. So this is coming from Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, that it seems like it's shaping up that Joshua John was a copycat of the Charlie Kirk assassin. And he specifically conducted searches of Charlie Kirk's assassination before he conducted this attack on an ICE facility in Dallas.
I mean, which shows the interconnectivity between all of this leftist rhetoric that's happening, all of the pro-trans, anti-ICE, pro-BLM. I mean, we're seeing nothing but trickle-down violence that's been there for years. And this isn't new. We've seen this since 2020.
Having an armed citizenry comes with a price. That is a part of liberty. He gives the example, driving comes with a price. 50,000 people die on the road every year. That is a price. You could get rid of driving, have 50,000 fewer auto fatalities. But we have decided that the benefit of driving, speed, accessibility, mobility, having products, services, is worth that cost. Evaluating the honest costs and benefits of a policy. Charlie would actually come out and say, the Second Amendment has downsides. We have more guns. There is more gun violence in America than there is in the UK. There's more gun violence here than there is in China.
It's an ideology.
I'm telling you,
it's an ideology that's driving all of it.
I believe God was working through Charlie Kirk, both in life, but even he was leaving little Easter eggs for us right before his death, and Charlie was communicating these things. And he sent a text to Stephen Miller. We have to go after the networks that are financing and fomenting violence and radicalization.
How about also we stop demonizing young men as a society and blaming them for every problem that's in society, particularly young white men, where you're to blame for everything. It's your fault. You're the ones who are responsible for all of this. And Hillary Clinton, again, Hillary Clinton goes up on TV and that's exactly what she said.
Isn't it so interesting that the demonization of young white men has resulted in the ignoring of the most mentally unhealthy young white men that are all on the left?
You're not going to get gun deaths to zero. It will not happen. You can significantly reduce them through having more fathers in the home, by having more armed guards in front of schools. We should have an honest and clear reductionist view of gun violence, but we should not have a utopian one. You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights.
This was in response, first and foremost, to United Airlines saying that half of all their new pilots that they're going to hire are going to be women or people of color. Currently, they're 15%. Okay. So they want to go from 15% to 50%. A conversation then ensued about how every time affirmative action is employed, standards have to be lowered. There's not a single instance where that does not occur. So then I said, boy, if I see a black pilot, I'm now going to wonder, is that individual qualified, or were they selected because of their race? But that's not who I am, but this makes me think this way. And I stand completely by that statement. Okay. Secondly, let me just finish.
Sure. Yeah, sorry.
DEI and affirmative action, what it does is it lowers the merit, it lowers the threshold of standards, and increases things that do not matter, such as skin color and ethnic background.
It's either merit or it's a quota. You cannot have both. And we stand by Charlie in that statement. Erica Kirk is going to be on this program tomorrow. So she wants to talk to you in the audience, real Americans and the people that love Charlie.
Eric is actually on a Zoom call with all of our staff right now, getting everybody organized, working with everyone.
She's a true CEO.
She is as we speak right now, she has been an incredibly brave soul through all of this, and it has emboldened all of us.
It seems like an indictment of James Comey is imminent. Would this be the first step in accountability for pushing the hoax of Russia, along with Barack Obama involved as well?
Well, I can't tell you what's going to happen because I don't know. You have very professional people headed up by the Attorney General and Todd Blanche and Lindsay Halligan, who's very smart, good lawyer, very good lawyer. They're going to make a determination. I'm not making that determination. I think I'd be allowed to get involved if I want, but I don't really choose to do so. I can only say that Comey's a bad person. He's a sick person. I think he's a sick guy, actually. He did terrible things at the FBI.
Who do you hold responsible for the uptick in left-wing violence in the country?
Radical left rhetoric. The radical left is causing the problem. They're out of control. They're saying things, and they're really dumb people. I mean, I look at Crockett. I look at some of these people. They're very low IQ people, actually. But the radical left is causing this problem, not the right, the radical left. And it's going to get worse, and ultimately it's going to go back on them. I mean, bad things happen when they play these games. The right is a lot tougher than the left, but the right's not doing this. They're not doing it, and they better not get them energized, because it won't be good for the left. And I don't want to see that happen either. I'm the president of all the people. The radical left Democrats are causing this problem. And it'll be a point where other people won't take it anymore, and that will not be good for the radical left, and we don't want that. This is all caused by the Democrats. They asked us to do something that's totally unreasonable. They never change. They want to give money away to illegally, people that entered our country illegally. They want to give them massive federal money, and we don't want to do that because it means everyone's going to just keep pouring back. Right now, we have absolutely perfect borders like you haven't seen in many years, even better than I had great borders during my 4 years, but these borders are stone cold closed. You can only come into our country legally now. Big thing, they want to open borders again after what we're going through now, getting rid of prisoners, getting rid of all of these people dropped out from mental institutions, drug dealers, drug addicts, everything. They're putting everybody into our country. It's all ended now, but this is what Schumer wants. This is what the Democrats want.
This is Human Events with your host, Jack Posobiec.
Why you support a president who contributes to the rhetoric that got your friend Charlie killed.
That's a blatant lie. It's a defamatory.
He contributed to the political atmosphere.
Well, then you have no point. Then your point is utterly empty. Contributing to the atmosphere. This guy was, no, let's just make clear. This guy was motivated by leftist ideology. We know it from the bullet casings. We know it from the Utah governor. We know it from his own mother. Yes, we do. Let's be really clear on that.
Even if that's true, so then you're saying, because, let's say this guy's a leftist, even if that's true, does that make it okay for the sitting president of the United States to incite violence against liberals?
The President of the United States has not accepted violence against liberals. The President of the United States made a joke at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, which was funny and self-deprecating. It was on the heels of Erica Kirk saying she, in an extraordinary moment, forgave her husband's killer. And let me finish. And then President Trump got up and making a joke, playing off of what Erica said. He said, we disagree. I need to do better. Erica's going to try to convince me, but I'm in a different place. And that's completely normal for a politician to be thinking about his political fights. And by the way, Trump has every right to loathe his enemies. They tried to put him in jail for the rest of his life. They tried to bankrupt him. They tried to put his family in jail. And they tried to kill him.
The fact that he wouldn't correct it is what shows you it was not a mistake. He meant it. He wouldn't get off of that talking point even when his show was hanging in the balance. It was too important to him, that lie, that the shooter was MAGA. His staffers were behind the scenes crying when he didn't back down, when he went out there and doubled down on his criticism of MAGA and Trump and didn't offer an apology, and they were getting ready to quit if he were to do it. That's what Jimmy Kimmel has surrounded himself with. We saw in this case, as we saw with the Charlie case, what the motivation was. It was literally written on the bullet casings. The shooter went to the trouble of writing it on the bullet so there wouldn't be any ambiguity. And yet still the media pretends like it's all some big mystery. This morning, having seen this photo and read the reports we read, where he was openly identified as a communist, they still went to air with, unclear. We really don't know what the motive was. We have no idea. Totally inappropriate and irresponsible. Then this morning, my goal is to terrorize ICE. I hope they're terrorized by now realizing I can shoot them from roofs around their facilities. And you watch not one of those sources, not NPR, not MSNBC, not NBC, none of the sources who pitched we don't know this morning, before we had that explicit line, all we had was the bullet casing, is going to update their report with, now we know. They're going to continue pretending it was a mystery because they don't care about stopping it. If this were their people, they'd be blasting the motivations as they've been written by these killers from the rooftops. It's because it's us and they're secretly in favor of it that they want to keep doing this, which is why I think many of us are feeling truly radicalized by their behavior. We ran somebody who knows how to fight, Donald Trump, and he won. And he's shown the Republican Party how to fight. And what do? As soon as we get into these big battles, we once again wave the white flag and try to be the high ground party. That has failed. Our people are dying. They're literally getting shot. It's not just Charlie. Trump was shot, and Corey Compatore is dead because of these maniacs. It is time to take them very seriously. We have to fight. It's not that I like big government getting involved in speech. Trust me, our side has been fighting that battle for decades. It's that it's a question of tactics right now. And because of what Brendan Carr did, they got their cage rattled for once. Jimmy Kimmel was off the air. Yes, it was only 5 or 6 nights, but they learned firsthand it doesn't feel good when you have interference in your ability to say what you feel, especially government interference. It kind of sucks. Welcome to our world. We had 4 years of the Biden administration putting its hand over our collective mouths at every turn. Just ask any doctor who tried to say that COVID didn't come from an animal, that it was a lab leak. I could go down the list, okay? The government interference in our ability to speak, government interference at YouTube, having our accounts pulled so that we couldn't say, people who defended anything about January 6th. Accounts pulled. You're silenced by the government. And you don't have to speculate that it was the government because they told us. The Biden White House had the whole press conferences owning the fact that they were trying to censor the disinformation dozen, including Bobby Kennedy and others. So they needed a taste of their own medicine in order for us to have any hope of them stopping this. The only way of stopping that, the lawfare, et cetera, is to make, and I'm not calling for violence, I'm talking about these rhetorical fights, these lawfare fights, these policy fights. We must do to them what they've been doing to us. And that means if we need to rattle their cage and have Brendan Carr say to the affiliates, you know what? You are empowered to enforce the public interest requirement. Megan, do your thing, then so be it.
Today is Gold Star Mothers and Families Day. This is an annual proclamation This is to commemorate the fallen, those who have died for all of our freedoms and for our country, and for their families who have suffered such grievous losses. But this is a proclamation commemorating Gold Star mothers and Gold Star families.
Yeah, and they're great people. Incredible people, what they've had to go through. Very few people could have gone through this kind of thing.
With this executive order, you will be effectively bringing into effect the agreement that will save TikTok and ensure that it can operate safely and securely.
A very good talk with President Xi. He gave us the go-ahead. You know, it's run by American investors and American companies.
It's 3.88% growth, the biggest in years. And the important thing is the president says this is going to be non-inflationary growth just like it was in its first term. Small business optimism under President Trump last week hit a multi-year high.
Let him be friendly with the generals and admirals from all over the world. Why? Is there something? No, but is there something wrong with it?
What is it about? Will you be there personally as well? What is it about?
Well, I'll be there if they want me, but why is that such a big deal? I mean, the fact that we're getting along with the generals and admirals from all. Remember, I'm the president of peace. It's good to get along. It's good. You act like this is a bad thing. Isn't it nice that people are coming from all over the world to be with us?
It's not particularly unusual that generals who report to the Secretary of War and then to the President of the United States are coming to speak with the Secretary of War. It's actually not unusual at all, and I think it's odd that you guys have made it into such a big story.
We're respected from all over the world as a military force. You know, I rebuilt the military during my first term, even though we gave a chunk of it away to Afghanistan. But we're talking Afghanistan too, by the way, about Bagram and about that. But that's a very small amount compared to what we rebuilt it by. We have the strongest military anywhere in the world without question. We have the greatest equipment in the world. We're selling the equipment to other countries. And a lot of generals want to be here and they want to look at they're also going to be touring equipment sites. They're going to be talking about the newest weapons, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's great when generals and top people want to come to the United States to be with our now called Secretary of War. Does everybody like the name? I do.
Sure. Well, first of all, I would say all credit goes to the Secretary of the Treasury. Couldn't have got it done without Scott. Also couldn't have got it done without Sean Cooksey on my team, so thanks to them. The company will be valued around $14 billion. We actually think this is a good deal for investors, but ultimately the investors are going to make the determination about what they want to invest in and what they think is a proper value. The most important thing is that it does protect Americans' data security. It ensures TikTok is still accessible. And on this question of the algorithm, which we've heard this a lot, what this deal ensures is that the American entity and the American investors will actually control the algorithm. We don't want this used as a propaganda tool by any foreign government. We want to make sure that our people and our investors actually make these decisions based on what's good for their business as opposed to what's good for another government's propaganda arm.
Are you satisfied that there's no security concerns?
Yeah, I am. I really am.
It would push disruptive.
The biggest reason is that it's owned by Americans. It's, and very sophisticated Americans and people that love the country and very smart Americans too.
Our citizens are being attacked by, as Stephen said, organized violence, and it's being paid for, not by them, by other people. So what we are going to do, combining forces as Scott and I have done in these last few months, is follow the money. People and organizations have collected funds and put them out into the streets of America and organized violence across our country. And thanks to your recognition of this and this executive order and the AG's leadership to lead out and prosecute these individuals, we are properly going to chase them down like the domestic terrorists that they are, and our streets and our communities will be safer because the JTTF and the FBI and Treasury and DHS and DOJ are going to combine forces like never before to root out this new evil that is perpetrating our criminal activities across our society.
This is a presidential memorandum on countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence.
We're looking at the funders of a lot of these groups, and you know, when you see the signs, and they're all beautiful signs made professionally. These aren't your protesters that make the sign in their basement late in the evening because they really believe it. These are anarchists and agitators, professional anarchists and agitators, and they get hired by wealthy people, some of whom I know. You're at dinner with them, everything's nice, and then you find out that they funded millions of dollars to these lunatics.
This is the first time in American history that there is an all-government effort to dismantle left-wing terrorism, to dismantle Antifa, to dismantle the organizations that have been carrying out these acts of political violence and terrorism. The riots that started with Black Lives Matter and all the way through to the Antifa riots, the attacks on ICE officers, the doxing campaigns, and now the political assassinations. These are not lone, isolated events. This is part of an organized campaign of radical left terrorism. It is structured, it is sophisticated, it is well funded, it is well planned. There is really no parallel like this to anything else in the country right now. There is an entire system of feeder organizations that provide money, resources, weapons, and when they're attacking ICE officers, they're attacking federal buildings, or they're isolating public officials for harassment, doxing, intimidation, and ultimately attempted assassination. It is all carefully planned, executed, and thought through. It is terrorism on our soil. Because of this executive order, Cash and Pam are going to have the tools they need, working with Scott, to take these organizations apart piece by piece. And the central hub of that effort is going to be the Joint Terrorism Task Force, or JTTF, which sits inside the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Not only are we seeking it in Washington, D.C., but all over the country again. And as you saw very recently, we are now moving the inmates who were on death row, who Joe Biden or the auto pen commuted their sentences off of death row. We're moving them to supermax facilities where they will be treated like they're on death row for the rest of their lives, President Trump.
I see some of you shaking your heads very positively. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, fellas.
You said on the campaign trail that you were for the death penalty if anybody, an illegal, killed a U.S. citizen or a police officer. So this just reinforces your campaign promise.
When you look at that the guy that killed the young lady in the train in North Carolina, that he'll be in trial for years. He'll get a good lawyer somewhere along the line. Somebody will come along. We don't want that in this country anymore. We're not going to have it in this country anymore. Especially the young people, they really wanted this to happen. They did not want to have TikTok closed. And I got, a little used to TikTok. I used it myself during the campaign, and it was very successful because you know how I did with the young voter. And Charlie helped me a lot too. And he said to me, you should go on TikTok. And it actually had, because we got record votes with the young voter, as you know.
Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
Everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rav has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rav. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in, be counted, be heard. Together, we are Rav.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.